The ranked experience in any game can be miserable at times, and while I love SUPERVIVE, the game is no different.
Oh my fuck, dude, are you serious?
You can't always depend on your teammates to be there for you. Sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. Today, we will be going over the best characters to solo carry on, starting with the worst in a tier list format. Starting off with the D tier, we have Aluna, Shrike, and Void. Aluna is at the bottom of the list because really most of her value comes from her teammates dying. She inherently relies on teammates to do things before they die, and there's not really a whole lot she can do after other than just continue rezzing and hoping to God they eventually win the fight for you. The only thing you can really do to influence fights is hitting roots, and the thing is you can only hit so many before the fight's already over. So realistically, I think Aluna is probably one of the worst characters to solo carry on. That being said, at lower elos, she's definitely not a bad pick. Some may be surprised that I put Shrike next to Aluna in this list. And the thing is with Shrike is that she needs teammates to make space for her to realistically do anything. On top of that, she's inherently a weak character compared to the ones that are stronger on this list. And it's probably going to remain that way for pretty much the entire game's life cycle, if I had to guess, considering the fact that having this character ever one-shot would be kind of crazy, and two-shotting is a pretty good spot for her to be in. Maybe they'll make it easier for her to hit those two shots and maybe get that damage threshold, but I don't really see that happening anytime soon. At the end of the day, I don't think Shrike is necessarily a bad option, especially if you're hitting all of your shots, but there are definitely better options, and I think any other Shrike player at the top of the game's elo is going to tell you the same damn thing that I'm telling you. But next up to Shrike, we have Void. And the thing is that Void is by no means a bad character. And just because a character is lower on the solo carry tier list doesn't mean that they're bad at all. It's just that Void is all about setting up his teammates really well. He makes good teams even better. But on top of this, at the current state of the game, where it's only really been out for like 2 to 3 weeks, he is still probably the most misunderstood character in the entire game. On top of this, he doesn't really have a dash either, so he has no mobility, meaning he's easier to catch out. So all of these things just make him not as self-sustainable. He needs to rely on his teammates to really do things to make space for him. And since we're talking about a solo tier list, a solo climbing tier list, Void doesn't really fit within that makeup very well. So that's why he is going to be in the D tier alongside Shrike and Aluna. So now that we're done with the D tier, let's move on to the C tier that has Celeste, Ghost, and Felix. And I know what everyone is thinking. Celeste is a really good option. She's a great character, especially when Oath isn't that strong. The thing is that she doesn't really do a whole lot after the fact, which we'll talk about later when we get to those other characters. But the thing is, and the thing I really want to make sure that everyone is aware of, is that Celeste is a really good option if all you want to do is survive and play to out the game. I think it's easier to do this on her than most other hunters in the game, but there are some that still can do it alongside some solo carrying value like the brawls and the myths of the game. The thing is that at the end of the day, Celeste does have a lot of get out of jail free options. The problem is she doesn't really have any carrying options. And since this is a list all about that 1vx potential, all about just carrying teams time and time again, fight after fight, I think Celeste is a little bit weaker compared to other characters, considering that's just how she plays as a character. Not a bad character, and especially will be coming meta probably pretty soon if Oath nerfs come through. But at the current point in time, she definitely struggles a little bit. So next up after Celeste, we have Ghost. And the thing with Ghost is that I think he's a great character. I think he's super fun to play against. He's super fun to play as, and all around just a great character that was added to the game. Super simple as well. On top of him just being simple, he also just has a lot of good poking utility to just keep whittling teams down from afar. But because that's the way he plays, he needs time to do so. And because of that, he doesn't really have the tools to do it all himself unless you are legitimately owning and getting those dash resets off of your nade, I believe, off Nox. Unless you're doing that, it's really difficult to just 1v4 every single fight. Now, that being said, he does have some good utility that will probably come alive in slower metas as the game develops, as players get better. The thing is that he also just doesn't really have a lot of mobility. So he's easier to catch out as well, meaning he's not as self-sustainable, which is going to be a big theme that we see later in the list. So let's move on then to Felix. The thing with Felix is that he is an all or nothing character. He is really easy to just own people and just destroy people in fights if you are in a lower level lobby when people don't really know what to do against the Felix. But once you get to a level in which you do play against players that know how to deal with a Felix, it gets a lot harder and you're going to get countered a lot more, aka dying more, and then it's just going to be harder to carry as a result. That being said, the good thing about Felix is that he's super self-sufficient. The bad part is that he doesn't have any range, which means that he's all or nothing, like we said, which means it's just inherently riskier to play this character. So that closes out the C tier. Let's move on to the B tier, starting with Jhin. Jhin is a super interesting one in my opinion, because I think Jhin could be a 1vx character pretty easily. We just haven't seen the meta or the player to make this character really show up and shine amongst everyone else in the cast. The main reason I think this is because he's just simply harder than other characters that just do the same role as him. So for example, when Brawl exists, it makes Jhin look weaker when he isn't really that bad right now. It's just so much easier to solo carry on Brawl, so that's why everyone's playing Brawl. Because of this, because Jhin is just not very forgiving, and because the game is so new, he is going to be on the lower end of B tier, which is honestly a little higher than I thought I was going to put him. But I honestly maybe am going to, regret my words and see him go to A or S tier in this next patch. We'll just have to see. Moving past the Jhin, though, we have Hudson. Now, I know what you guys are all saying. Hudson's OP. Why is he in B tier? Now, hear me out. A time will come where he is not blatantly overpowered on top of people learning how to counter him. And the thing is with Hudson is once he does inevitably get these nerfs and doesn't get to do everything, he's going to need something from his team to get value, much like a Ghost, but honestly even more so than a Ghost with how slow he is. Without somewhere to sit in the pocket like a quarterback, he isn't really going to be able to do anything. He's going to struggle to continuously fire damage. And hopefully his mobility gets removed or at least nerfed a significant amount so that it actually is easier to catch him out and he won't be able to just keep moving around the fight as easily as just super easily, with all things considered. So once that happens, I think Hudson will still be a very strong character to just pick up and play. That being said, I think there will be other characters that we discuss that will be a little bit better than Hudson after he gets rebalanced with the rest of the cast. Now, let's move on to Myth, where honestly, I think Myth is really good. This is where we are at a point in this list where we're bridging the gap between those characters that are okay and those characters that are good. And the thing is with Myth is that I think she's a solid pick all around. You're never really going to be mad if you have a Myth on your team. The problem is it's not really like when I pick a character that I want to carry on that I'm picking Myth. I'm usually picking almost any other character that I can think of above her, but that doesn't mean she's bad. I still think she can be good. I still think you can carry to the max level to legend if you're really, really good at her. I just think there's better characters to climb and solo carry on. So let's start talking about those characters in the A tier. We have Bishop, Zeph, and Oath. So starting off with Bishop, she's really good at all ranges. There's not really a specific place she doesn't want to play or an engagement type that she doesn't like. So because of this flexibility, that's why I think she's really strong and really consistent. She has punishing CCs as well to deny enemy ultimates, enemy carries maybe that you're running into, and you're going to be having those same abilities yourself with your punch that can just absolutely 100 to 0 people. Because she can do it all and she does a little bit of everything, there's never really a bad situation for her, and that's why I think she's an A tier character for solo carrying, simply because it's all around great character that you're never really going to hate playing in a weird situation. Next up then we have Zeph, who I believe is the best support in the game, at least at the time of recording this video. He has great sustain for himself as well as for the whole team, great movement if you're skilled with him, on top of excellent damage to absolutely nuke people. And the thing is, with all of these components, is that Zeph is all around really good. The crazy part is though, believe it or not, is that there's still a good few hunters that are just even better at carrying than a character like Zeph is, just because Zeph, it takes a little bit more from that player to hard carry a game, just because there's more that you have to think about, whereas other characters, it's quite literally their job to just kill everyone and do damage. So let's move on then to another character that used to be a protector, now a frontliner. We have Oath. And the thing is that Oath is just like Zeph. He has everything he needs to be a solid solo carry. He has excellent damage. He has a great self heal that also heals his shield. By the way, yeah, he has a shield, so he has pretty much 2 health bars, a really solid ultimate as well. He pretty much just has it all. The problem is that he can't quite do it all himself. He needs just the slightest help from his team to pull through and absolutely dominate games. And the characters above him don't exactly need the team. They realistically can just win everything on their own. So we've gotten to that point in the list. We have gotten to S tier. containing Shiv, Kingpin, Jewel, and Brawl. Starting off with Shiv, we have the pub stomping queen. If you get started on this character, the lobby will not be able to stop you. The nature of ranked is just to run teams down, and Shiv is the character to do that and will absolutely bulldoze lobbies. Shiv was made for ranked, and as a result is the pinnacle character to run down lobbies. When you start scrimming with Shiv, that's when you're finally going to see maybe she's not as OP as I'm saying, but in ranked, if you're good and you hit every one of your shots, she's definitely a really solid pick to go for. Next up though, we have Kingpin, who is another great option simply because hitting hooks converts fights into 4v3s immediately. It is so much easier to fight from a 4v3 standpoint as compared to a 4v4 standpoint. And on top of this, Kingpin also has a great health pool, has great damage, and realistically, no downsides unless you're just missing all of your utility. So I think Kingpin is a really good option if you're maybe not the craziest mechanical player like a Shiv player would have to be, but you're confident enough to hit like 1 in 3 hooks. You're going to actually win a lot of fights in that case and win a lot of ranked points as a result. So moving on to the second to last character on today's list, we have Jewel. Jewel is a character that is crazy good for solo carrying because she easily has the best 100 to 0 potential in the game. She does struggle against certain picks, but her makeup as a character makes her incredibly strong. Good Jewel players will dominate ranked lobbies without hesitation and can do more than almost every other hunter in the game if the player is solid. So if you really think you're that guy on Jewel, she might be the best character to 1vx and just dominate games with. But there's still one more option, and that option, we all know where we're going with this one, is Brawl. And with his current iteration with amplifier builds, it makes him kind of difficult to rate because he's a bit stronger than what he normally was in alphas. At the end of the day, his ultimate killing wisps to confirm kill points really easily is just absolutely insane, but it also gets him empowered to just snowball the rest of the people in the fight once you get that first pick. All the things that you want to do on Brawl are significantly important and impactful in your rank points going up as well. So realistically, when you don't really have to change the way you're playing on a character and you just play him the way he was intended, and that's going to be great for ranked, I see no other character being better than Brawl if you are the GOAT on Brawl, at least in his current iteration. So that is going to finish our best solo carry hunters in ranked from worst to best. Ranked is truly its own beast, and some hunters are simply better at climbing compared to others. Hopefully this guide helps you all out with winning your next ranked games, but until next time, I've got to peace out and pass out. I'll see you in the next one.